Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Welcome to another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here with Joe Stolte at Futurescope. Hey, Joe, how you doing?
Pretty good, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing at Futurescope.
Yeah, absolutely. So nice to meet everybody. My name is Joe Stolte, as Andy said, and I'm the CEO of Futurescope. And what we're doing is we're helping publishers and small to medium business owners create automated emails using artificial intelligence. It's really quite extraordinary what's possible today. And what we've done with our early product is we actually help people publish these AI automated email newsletters, and you can get them fixed up in just minutes. And what's extraordinary about them is they're actually producing anywhere from a 40 to 70% daily open rate without you having to write a single email, helping you engage your audience, position yourself as a thought leader, stay top of mind, and of course, drive impressions to your offers, to your sales, so you can sell more stuff.
I love this idea, Joe. I know how hard it is as a content company for most companies to write a newsletter, send it out. There's usually a lot of hands in the process and a lot of work that goes into each newsletter. Tell me a little bit about how you make it easy for your customers.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way we make it easy for customers is actually in a number of ways. But I think in order to appreciate what we do to make it easier, it might make sense to stop and understand like what's happening in reality and why it's so difficult. So today, something like 80 to 81% of SMBs in English-speaking countries, they rely on email as their primary source of new customer acquisition and retention, which would be fine, except that the average time that it takes them to publish an email that has anything to do with marketing, either a one-off marketing email or a newsletter, is anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks. And most of that time is spent thinking what to create and actually coming up with the content or creating it yourself. And so what we've done is we've kind of made that process extraordinarily simple. By using large language learning models and AI, we can go out and scour the world's information, literally looking at hundreds of thousands of sources and millions of articles. And then what we do is we curate content for your newsletter that goes out to your audience. And the way that we do it and sort of what's special about it is we've built something called a perspective engine. So our AI actually understands what an article is about. Is it talking about something that's way out in the far future or something that's right now? Is it talking about a scientific breakthrough or something in real estate? And so what it can basically do is take that content, and we're able to look at all of the news and all of the content in the world and do something really cool, which is we strip out paywalls, clickbait, and negative news. So we're basically producing something that we call future forward positive news. And the reason why that's important is because it creates something in our subscribers that I call hopamine. It's like a mixture of hope and novelty and dopamine all mixed together. And that's why we get such extraordinary open rates for our newsletters and for the newsletters of the publishers on our platform.
That's so fantastic. And how long does it take typically to produce a newsletter compared to the 1 to 3 weeks?
Yeah, so we can create a test newsletter with a brand or a publisher in minutes. We can literally sit down and have it done in minutes. The interesting thing is most people are getting in their own way. You know, it's kind of like when I bought my Tesla and I went out and on the freeway and I used autopilot. It was really strange and I was uncomfortable and I didn't want to use it. And then I got used to it, right? I got used to like letting the AI drive, which is, you know, in my opinion, much more challenging than letting an AI write an email for you. But we get used to it. You know, it's like people are still getting used to, brands and decision makers inside of brands are still getting used to letting an AI drive a significant marketing motion within their business. And I think that to the extent that brands are willing to trust AI, but not just that, but to fuse their own intelligence into it, and our platform allows them to do that, you can literally get your newsletter out in minutes to a test audience, figure out what works, create a feedback loop with the AI and scale it from there. The average publisher is taking somewhere like a week or 2 weeks to get their first one out. And then once it gets going and the AI is getting a feedback loop, it literally writes the newsletter for you. So you don't have to do any more manual review or touching or tweaking. You just let it go and it will start publishing to your audience in your name every day if you choose to.
So when you let it go like that, I know that there's probably people are thinking to themselves, how do I make sure that it's saying the right things that I want it to say to my audience? What's the review process like? How do I curate it from there or make any changes? The AI will present options for me, but then what happens?
Yeah, so we have this feature, like all good email platforms. Naturally, as a marketer or someone sending a communication one to many to a list of lots of people, or hundreds of thousands of people, you're gonna want to look at what's going out before it goes out. And so we actually have the same thing in our platform where you can see a preview of everything that's going on in the newsletter. The difference between, let's say, like a preview you might see in like a MailChimp or your kind of standard mail service provider that's allowing you to communicate with your customers, is every time you make a change to your email preview, the AI is learning from that. So if you remove an article, you can tell the AI from a drop-down menu, why did you remove it? If you're changing a subtitle or redoing a headline, you're able to, the AI is getting a feedback loop from you as the publisher to say, oh, okay, I get it. You want less of that and more of this, which is extraordinary. The other thing that's really fascinating is our AI will actually analyze the subject line, and it'll tell you like a percentage sort of confidence interval, if you will, of how likely that subject line is to be opened. And if you don't like it, you literally just hit refresh and the AI will write you a new one and another one and another one until you can see that it's producing the maximum possible best, subject line or headline for that particular email. And you can do that with the article summaries, the headlines of the article, and the images of the article. The fascinating thing that's happening here, Andy, is it's not just about AI, it's about the synthesis between AI and human beings, right? If you think about the greatest chess players in the world, so many years ago, I think it was 2014, IBM's AI beat the world's greatest chess player. And now, today's best chess players aren't just AI, it's a human plus an AI. And we think the same thing is going to be true for a couple of years when it comes to marketing, content, and communications. It's using your best skills and tricks as a publisher combined with all of the intelligence that the AI brings to really maximize the efficacy of your email or of whatever the medium is that you're choosing to engage AI on. And we're just trying to make that as simple as possible and allow the AI to be great at what it's great at and allow you as a brand or a small business to be great at what you're great at.
It's so great. And it's such a useful tool to be able to stay in front of your customers with newsletters. What verticals do you service? Who are some of your ideal customer profiles, and who makes the best use out of your platform?
Yeah, right now we're in a very limited interview only beta program. So we've got about 60 early adopters in our early adopter program. I think it's like 7 different countries and 20 different industries. So there's a substantial spread and sort of variation across the industries that this is working in. The ones that we've had really good traction in are things like authors and thought leaders. So for example, we created the AI companion newsletter for Dr. Peter Diamandis and Tony Robbins' book, Life Force. Peter is, of course, my business partner and the chairman of the company. So we did the AI newsletter for their book. That book hit the New York Times bestseller list, and this list has done really well. Last week, we launched something called the Connection Insider for Joe Polish's book, What's in It for Them. That book just hit the New York Times bestseller list. I think it was number 5. Hopefully it gets to number 1 over time. It's a great book, and Joe's an awesome guy. And we're talking to a number of other sort of, call it authors or publishers in that space. But I get it. Not everybody's brand is, you don't have the following of a Tony Robbins or a Dr. Peter Diamandis, or you're not maybe like the marketing chops of a Joe Polish. So, we're working with everybody from, let's say, like the National Electricians Association of Australia to, real estate firms, mortgage firms, financial services firms, VCs, financial services, private equity, even like heavy machinery. And we've got a customer that's doing things in golf. I mean, it's really kind of all over the place, and you don't need a huge following. You just need to know how you want to communicate with your audience and to bring your magic to the party so that you can sort of combine with the AI intelligence to get a great output for you and your subscribers or customers.
That's great. And talk to me a little bit about the content that's in the newsletters, right? So I get these articles that get presented to me of information that I can send to my prospects. Are those links out to other people's websites, or are those links to my content on my website? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of context first. The way we see the evolution of content on the internet, you just think about the internet in 3 really big phases. The first phase was just connecting, getting online. So everyone's just getting connected. And, I was around before there was an internet. And so I remember being a young kid in like 94, 95, getting on AOL, and everyone's just kind of getting connected and getting online. From there, the next big wave or the next big phase was creation. everybody was creating. You have this massive boom of content creators. And that's when you saw the birth of different platforms, whether that's Instagram or YouTube or the blogging platforms, et cetera. And you've just got an insane amount of creation, which is like good, but it's also a lot of noise, right? There's a lot to sift through there. And if you're going to create a new piece of content, there's so much content being created. There's such stiff competition to write good content, good, evidenced by its ability to grab people's attention, that it's really hard to make great content. Let's be honest. And all of us content creators have experienced that. I mean, it's a real art and science to it. So that entered the third phase, which is the phase of the curator. It's being able to look out across the world of extraordinary content and say, oh, my audience would like that, and my audience would like that, and my audience would like that, and to curate really interesting content to engage your audience, and then mix your own content in there. And that's really what our newsletters do, is we use AI to do the curation for you. So the AI is what's looking at, these hundreds of thousands of articles and millions of different, hundred thousands of sources and millions of different articles and news types. And it's doing the curation for you. And then you can actually control how it does the curation. But the way that it works is we're creating a curated newsletter. And so when I send a newsletter out, to my audience, they're getting a curated feed, and that's going to take them, when they click out of the newsletter, that's going to take them to the source article. So it's not going to take them to your web page, not yet, although that's coming. But today it's just really simple. We're just trying to help you be a world-class curator with the help of AI to send your audience really interesting information. And then inside of that, you can stick your own offers in, and you can have a communication level with your customers that you maybe didn't have before. Because it's really difficult to have a daily discussion with your audience on social media because of the way the algorithms work, right? But in your inbox, it's much easier. So if you can give your audience and your subscribers, your customers, your list a reason to pay attention to you every day or every week, now you've got another opportunity to give them your own original content or to sell them something, give them an offer that's going to help them. So that's how it works.
Very cool. Very cool. And I love the whole direction of the business. Talk to me a little bit about the origin story of how you got started. People love to hear origin stories.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you how we got started. I'll tell you kind of how we think about where we're going. Originally, the two original founders of the business were Eben Pagan and Dr. Peter Diamandis. And Eben had been paying his team to go out and curate manually, what he was calling different converging technologies, things that were happening at the intersection of one technology and another, to try to understand what that meant for him and his business, and what that meant particularly around seeing new opportunities. And the idea that inspired Eben is he read this book about back in the day before there was like a digital stock market. And there was a man who was taking the stock orders and quotes and writing them on a chalkboard, and going back and taking the orders and writing them on a chalkboard. Well, this guy gained a real strategic and tactical intuition of what the markets were doing just from taking orders and writing them on the chalkboard so everybody could see it. And he became an extraordinary investor in the markets just from getting this intuition. So Eben was like, well, what if we could do that today with all the interesting and converging and exploding exponential technologies? And then Peter was doing something very similar. He was paying his team to write an email newsletter for him, and part of that looked like curation, and part of that looked like having him have people write content and him in partnership with him. And so when they got together, they first solved the problem for themselves, and then eventually I came along and met them and said, hey, wouldn't it be great if we could take this product to the world and help everybody do this? And back in January, I became the CEO of the company, and that's really what we've been focused on this year, is helping them with that. And in the future, if you think about where we're going with this, we really see ourselves as an AI media company. If you think about, like, at the time of this recording, what's really popular right now is the idea of generative AI. Like, generative AI is really having a moment, whether that's basically using AI and machine learning to generate, text or images, or in some cases voice, in some cases video. And it's really extraordinary what's happening right now. And so we see now, and other research firms are seeing as well, that within the next 10 years, 90% plus of content created is going to be either directly and fully created by an AI, or significantly altered and helped through the process by an AI. So we see ourselves as an AI media company, and email is just the first stop. And using imagery and text is just the first stop. We really see this going into video and voice and audio, and just imagine you being able to clone your digital identity and be able to engage with your customers on a one-to-one basis and have it authentically reflect your brand voice, and actually sound and look like you. That future is not that far off. We're just starting with email today because that's the best surface area based on how advanced the technology is. But as things get crazier and crazier, we're going to be right there to help drive this idea of AI media.
It makes a lot of sense. And I think for the curator, what it sounds like to me is that it helps to elevate the curator's share of voice and position in the market. So they become sort of like an educator and an expert in their category, whereas oftentimes newsletters are, you're selling something. And so those newsletters aren't necessarily educational. Whereas if you're an aggregator and a curator, you have an opportunity to be able to educate your audience, which elevates your perception in the reader's mind in a different way.
100%. It is a very value first approach. How can I find and create value for my audience before I ask or try to extract value through a sale? And so just by finding really great content and paying attention to with your own intuition, but also with your AI superpower companion here to help really dig into what your audience cares about, to give them, not just interesting information, but most content, most news in the world today, 90 to 92% of it is negative or extremely negative context and sentiment. So, as the media says, if it bleeds, it leads. Well, we're basically taking all that crap out, and we're giving you a chance to give people this positive content that matches your curation interests plus the curation interests of your audience in a way that's really never been possible before. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. And we only see it getting more advanced and better just as time goes on here.
Love the direction. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about the business side of the company. How do you generate revenue?
Yeah, so today in our early adopter program, we are just a very traditional B2B SaaS company. So, you pay a monthly fee to use the service, and then it's metered based on the number of subscribers you have. There's 3 tiers. And, when we go to market publicly in 2023, it'll be the same, and you will pay extra for certain features or how many times you use certain things. So for example, if you want to create AI generated imagery for your original content or for your newsletter, that'll be metered based on how many times you use it. There'll be a small fee for that. But at a basic level, just how many subscribers you have drives how much you pay per month. And then in the future, though, we really see as this platform really grows, really creating an opportunity to create what we call peer-to-peer ad network. So imagine, Andy, if you and I were both talking to the CEOs of let's say companies with 10 to 500 employees, and you wanted to place an ad in my newsletter, the AI could say, hey, Joe has a similar audience to you, Andy. Would you like to place an ad in his newsletter? And then the AI could create the ad, and you could suggest how much you'd be willing to pay to place the ad in my newsletter. And then me as a publisher, I can approve or deny that. And so, there's just a really extraordinary opportunity to also just advertise across each other's emails and owned marketing channels that really only exists in really small pockets today. And it really isn't assisted by AI. So we really see a huge opportunity to unlock these sort of latent audiences, and you could monetize your audience in a way that's even more interesting than selling people more of your stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And getting your message in front of the right people through this peer-to-peer kind of environment. I love the peer-to-peer aspect of that, because right now every advertiser is behind an algorithm that is a black box. But if you can kind of take that black box and put it in the hands of marketers and let them put their message in front of an audience that they know is responsive to certain kind of messaging that would resonate with them and their business, that becomes big advantage for any kind of marketer.
That's right. We sort of see these owned media channels as like gray markets of CPMs, whether that's the inbox, the email inbox, or the SMS inbox, or if you're, for example, publishing your newsletter on a Discord or a Slack or on a Telegram channel, people, the way that we as brands communicate with our audience is bifurcated in many ways. And we sort of see that's going to continue to be the case. And I think the most interesting channels are the ones that we own, where we don't have any algorithm blocking our ability to have that authentic connection to our end customers. And we really want to be able to open those up and, have people share those with each other and monetize them if they choose to.
That resonates so much with what we do at WriteForMe. So because we tell all of our clients and prospects that in this day and age, everybody's a publisher. And the landscape has changed dramatically, and it's your opportunity to become that publisher. So tell me a little bit about your marketing strategy for educating prospective customers so that they can become that kind of publisher.
Yeah, for us as a company now, I mean, we're very fortunate to have, pretty big audience given our founding team. And so that's really where we've been going to get our initial early adopters. From there, we'll go into what we call phase 2, which will work with some very strategic partners, that also have an aligned audience and list that we can go on a limited basis and go create offers for them. And then eventually, we'll release it to the public, and anybody that's interested in joining can join. In the meantime, we'll probably put up a wait list in January, build some demand that way. And, I think at full tilt, we're operating across all 3, major channels like owned or organic, partnerships, and then paid media. And that's really been the playbook. If you look at some of the other generative AI companies or services in the space, most of them they have really good marketing teams as founding teams. And so thankfully they've laid out a nice framework, and our team has also got, significant experience in all of those domains. So that's kind of how we're thinking about going to market.
Very exciting. And if you were to celebrate something a year from now, what would you like to be celebrating?
Oh, I would love to be celebrating that we hit our, 10 million subscriber and our 500,000th publisher on the platform. That would be an extraordinary milestone for us to look back and celebrate.
Love that. Love that. Well, tell the listeners how they can find you and how they can sign up.
Yeah. So if you're hearing this or watching this, you can go over to futurescope.com and just sign up for a demo. And, if we're accepting new early adopters, you can book a call with someone on our team. We'll set up a newsletter for you, and you can sign up if you're interested.
Wonderful. Well, Joel Stolte from Futurescope, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Andy.
Great. Good luck to you.